Can you tell us about your immigrants growing up?
There's very little I can tell you about that period because I grew up like all other African children. And there was very little except to herd goats and then cattle and then play with all sorts of things, fighting in the bush. I don't know what it was leading to. Normally the bigger boys set us against one another and they enjoyed the way we fought, and sometimes in that part we used our fists, but in other parts they used sticks, and that's all everybody spent his day, his time doing at that time.
At what point do you then get involved in politics?
Politics, I got involved in politics very much later, because actually our home, our birthplace was Victory. We had a big village there called Nkiwane. That place is still there. Our people settled in that area. To give you my actual history, I belong to the Ngaba group. Ngaba left Zululand at the time of Mfecane. He moved northwards. Mind you, by the way, everybody in that part of South Africa had moved southwards from the north, from the east, north, and down to South Africa. Nobody was born there. Nobody was created there. Everybody was created. I believe the Bible is correct about the position where we were all created. We're all created in the Middle East, as a fact. We crossed into Africa, which country had no occupants in the form of the present human beings. It had the Hottentots. It had those people they called now Khoisans, who were called Bushmen at one stage of history. That was and it was the same in every other continent except even Europe was empty. That's why the Anglo-Saxons moved from Italy to England, to discover England. Every other portion of that land was populated by a certain group of people, not the present generation that we find today. So the Bible history is perfectly correct. We created all of us in one spot. That I will believe. we were talking before we sat down here about confusão, which is a Portuguese word. This term is probably Latin, and we're talking about Latin. This Latin, they must have come with it from somewhere. And it formed the stems of all words that human beings speak, whether they are Italians, the British, the Germans, the French, Canadians, or whatever. They all speak a bit of Latin. The beginning of their words may be Latin, or the end of their words may be Latin. It may have lost the actual sense, I don't know. But we then moved our great-grandfather, our not great-grandfather, but the leader of my clan was Ngaba. The white men, when they came and they were interested in establishing the history movement of the black men in that part of Africa, South Africa, incidentally, the name was Ngaba, pronounced. But in Ngaba, they changed it to Nshaba. As I am speaking, I am of the Nshaba clan, which is a distortion. It should have been Ngaba, not Nshaba as in anxious. It should be Nga, but they ended up saying Nshaba. As we grew up, I was one of the people who tried to find out where Nshaba was buried. We couldn't find. But where Ngaba was buried, we couldn't find. What happened to Ngaba, we couldn't trace. But in Nshaba, there was some direction. So nothing happened to Ngaba, but somebody lost the pronunciation of the name, and he was lost in total history. Then from Victory, as I say, our clan settled there. It was much earlier than the Mapotogos were in this country. The Mapotogos, meaning the Kumalos, the Msilikazi people, those came much later, and they found us settled at Nkiwane in Victory. They were directed by the white hunters, actually, history says, when they found them down near the Mahati. I don't know what Msilikas was looking for. Probably was looking, because there's so much game in that place. Whether he was threatened by the game or what happened, I don't know. But the white men who were also looking for game, elephants, they were looking for the elephant tusks. They told them that they had met some people who spoke a similar language to the one that Mziligas was speaking out down there. Then Mziligas then realized there were some people who spoke Zulu somewhere. He only moved much later towards the south to discover who were already there. Our who we are, the Nkiwane clan. Because in the south, there are no surnames. There are clan names. The clan is maintained by their clan name and not surname. I don't know the question of surnames, where it came from. In other words, I don't know. But we were kept, the Nkiwane name only came because in one of our totems, there's Mkiwa. Then they said, what is Mkiwa? Somebody was trying to explain what is it. Mkiwa was actually a tree, not an animal, but a tree. What tree? They then pointed at a fig tree to somebody, which is Nkiwane. And then the white men, I'm told, who were surveying, who were doing surveys, they had those gadgets, surveying equipment, I think, and some were pointing to some others. I don't know what was happening. Then these surveyors were told these are they call themselves the fig trees. That's why when they passed at fig tree, that whole place was called fig tree. Not because there were plenty of fig trees there, like plum trees. The plums were not, I don't know what caused them to believe plum tree was a place where plums were, I don't know. But that happened that way. That's how that's how we came about. So we lived in that place at Fig Tree. They came, these white men were surveying for the rail line from the Cape to this country. This was much later because Rhodes was already in control of this area. And we then moved because we couldn't stand with these steps every day, bringing some small machines and bringing more white men along that area. We then moved some. We thought we should move away from this place. We moved to the east, and we came against a range of mountains in the Matopos. And on the other side, there was the Tuli River starting going that direction. We didn't want to take the direction where Tuli was leading to because we had come from there. We didn't want to follow the Mzingwane because they start off from almost the same area. One starts going that way and one goes that. And yet, on the western side are other two rivers too. There's the Kwai, starting from Serin Mission, going in that direction, over the other side of the hill. On the other side is Tuli going that side. On the other side it is Manzamyama going there. And the Kame does the same thing, and the Mzingwane goes the other direction, and Kame goes the... So it was definitely on the high ridge that these people were following from the Cape. And I think they were clever. So we followed that high ridge. Naturally, why did we follow? Naturally, people at that time were following the rivers because the main thing that kept human beings going was water. With water, you possibly had everything. water, and we were tamed some animals. Animals that were on the African continent. They were put there by God, I suppose, because nobody met them somewhere and brought them there. Not one. They changed the breeds, those that, but not one can claim somebody stealing from, where did you get that? It was the ability to tame them. Like cattle were tameable. There are some animals that they fail to tame, like the lion. How do you tame a lion when it will tame you before you know where you are? Lions, hyenas were not tameable. Snakes were not tameable. Everything, but even some, like buffaloes, they've tried, even the white men tried to tame some buffaloes, cross-breeding them against the cows, the tamed cows. It didn't work. But those that were tameable were tamed. And human beings ended up having some cattle, ended having everything that they needed. So we can't claim to have had cattle because we found the things in the forest, and as I say, they were tameable. We tamed them.
So your clan finally, later on, you finally settled in Nkiwane.
No, we kept going. This whole land was empty. We only confronted the Bushmen in the Matopos. And in the Makhatikati, we kept going. We didn't stop. I don't know, we're following the Mzingwane River. Actually, what we're looking for big pools where it kept a lot of water. Because then we were having some few animals, tamed ones. We needed water to water our goats, our cattle, and we needed water for ourselves. So we followed the Mzingwane, came against the Nema River. It was full of sand, but so small. We believed there could be bigger rivers because the history in South Africa was that in the north there were big, nice rivers with big, cool waters. You'll understand, I said they came from the north down south. So their their ancestors had seen those big rivers. I believe some of the rivers are the Zambezi and the lakes. I don't know whether they were able to identify a lake at that time. Probably they thought it was a big river. Like the sea, finally when they got to Ndebele, they thought it was a big sea, they thought it was a big river. They stood on the mountains to see where it ended, where the small canoes could work. The thing went miles and miles, so they gave up. But this expedition now going back north kept on going, wanting to discover those rivers the stories were all about. We went on, but later we settled at Fort Rixon. I don't know for how long. but it was for many years. Then it was at Fort Erection where we waited for the leader of the clan then. The leader of the clan had not arrived. I don't know why, because when they left Zululand, they split. One wing went westwards and the other went eastwards. The eastern wing arrived here earlier than the southern, the western. And that western never got into what is now southern Rhodesia. It was caught up. The Chaga Simpis closed them in, and they were clever. They mingled with the Xhosa and disappeared among the Xhosas. Even today, Matigane, who is now Matigane II, is at Let Frey in the Eastern Cape, and he has a kingdom there. He's not Xhosa, he's one of us, but he lives there. And our Matigane, who assumed a name, when he did not come, we got another one of our clan men, and he was given the title. He moved up to Luakwelo. Even today, you have near Luakwelo Mission, you have Matigane. He is no longer a chief, but he is now a headman. I think that's an inferior. But it's better because we couldn't have two kings, one in South Africa and one in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, so that's an interesting part of yours. I mean, when you look at the history now, fast forward to the history of the liberation struggle, you are one of the first people to bring guns into the country. Tell us about that.
I've told you that story over and over many times. Well, I was an activist from Nkiwane, as I just stated, that from losing my teaching job, I came to Bulawayo. It was first time to live in the townships. That Makokoba was a place when you got home to the rural areas, you had stories to tell. I don't know whether it carries any more stories now or is a dead place. It was a place. You learned many things as you got into that place. People, even the Ndebeles who lived there, they kept their tradition. They knew what had happened to their king. Of course, all of us at that time were, because we also spoke the same language, we were not strangers to the Ndebeles, so we worked together. And some of our men were absorbed into that Ndebele crusade against the pioneers, the colonial pioneers. And some of our, one of my grandparents actually led the Pupu regiment that fought on the Shangani. And I saw him in 1941. His hand, the flesh was at the back of the hand, but all here, the white bones, the meat, I don't know what happened. I am told he had skins softened. I don't know what method they used to soften for making blankets, covers, and so on, so on. So they made amapechu. And they made goat skins, sheep skins, small sheep. They softened them. And I'm told he had a bangle tied onto his waist. As he crawled at Shangani, at Pupu, and these white men were firing their famous cannon guns. Cannon guns, you don't fire, do. You allow the enemy to move at a convenient position, you let the fire go. So they used this, and my grandfather, who was commanding this black group, had gone on the flank. On the flank is, as you are sitting like that, that chair is at your flank. You rarely look at that point. You are focused on looking towards me, the enemy. And yet they had broken and came back on the flanks. And they crawled to the back of the white men. They weren't so close to the white men because as the cannons were set, they set them. And they were waiting to see, and they're waiting with their gadgets to see the movement of the Ndebeles drawing nearer and nearer to them. And my grandfather and his men appeared from Norway with those skins. The cannon had a diameter of about 3 inches. And he had these skins on one hand, and he on the left hand, he had one. And the bangle was on the other hand, and he had one, and he wanted to plug that one, and had a stick, a big scoto. Once he puts it there, he pushes it into the one, and he takes another one. They thought they could stop that cannon barrel, and the bullet, the missile, whether it was, would not penetrate in. But as they were trying to do that, the white men had already also seen those coming, and they had started pulling the trigger. And as he pushed this skin, his hand was ripped. Bare, all the bones on the side were left. And as time went on, they started growing, but these bones remained. When we were small, frightened, and if we were crying, or they used to say, "Nangwi Shopkul, here is your grandfather," with his hand. Because when he did this, we had never seen a man like a spook. We were terrified. We kept quiet. No one understood why he should have had that type of. So we had some people who were. So that history about him was told many times. The people who came, "Hey, abantwana bendoda," meaning what? What has he done? And that sort of that praising. What did he do? He was a hero. What did he do? That he was a hero to end that palm with the bones like that. We did not understand what it was all about. So we grew knowing what had happened. And when I came to Bulawayo after we were expelled from the teaching field, I found plenty politics spoken. Then I then put it together. I realized I belong to that stock, brave stock. I didn't hate white men because I thought white men were like God at that time. I didn't. You hate, how do you? But even that minister who finally pronounced we are fired on the day the schools were opening, we did not hate him because when we got to Bulawayo, we got good jobs. Some went back to teaching, some said, "Pagarol, we're not going back to teaching." And I didn't go back to teaching, but I was comfortable at a job I got from a chap who wanted somebody who understood sums, mathematics. There were no adding machines at that time.
So ngesikhathi leso ilimethi laliyazi kakhulu. Laliyazi kakhulu arithmetic ngesikhathi leso.
Ngambele ke master yayo. Mathematics yona liyana kudala. Ngangibele mina adding figures. Ngangingehla le figures. Ngisuka kule figure. Ngazi value yale engaphansi lapha ngicina sengiyazile sengehlile sengilokhu sekhanda ngisehla nsenze. That I calculated. That's why I ended being encouraged to do accounting. I tried to do accounting. I tried to get back to South Africa, and I had already done my junior certificate, by the way. And anybody who had junior certificate at that time was a most educated man.
So izikhali lapha wena ungena sikhathi bani lapha kuletheni izikhali lizwe?
Izikhali ngingena later. Angithi khathesi sisesela eKobulawayo zisaphekwa ngale eZambia seziphekiwe. Ngapha ngapha lekhiwa elalithiwa nguKolonel Everington is interested that I do accountancy. He was from Nairobi. He came here to start what was then called Bulawayo Omnibus Company. He actually wanted to train me for that position. Because even the tickets, when they were pegging with figures, I had the answers before others, all others. And this chap said, oh, this chap is marvelous. And I carried that thing over, even when I had enrolled with the Union College for a Bachelor of Commerce degree, which I did not complete. I had credit in some subjects, but I was now transferred from this. There was a job, a federal job, where clerks, stock controllers were, and then I put my application, Rhodesia Mercantile Holdings, together with a letter from my previous boss, who already had an impression that I could make a wonderful accountant. He wrote well. And for that reason, the Union College I was dealing with was able to, because I'm practically doing the work there, I was transferred to Zambia. In Zambia, the Federation had 184 trading shops in all Zambian towns. And I was one black man among 6 white men who had come from 40 Maswingo, what was it for? Maswingo before it was Maswingo.
Fort Victoria.
Fort Victoria, who had come and they all over. And I was the only black man there. And the director was a Jew, an Israeli. He was very clever, very clever. So we're taking stock in one of the shops, the bulk store, where all goods they all came to Harare. From Harare, they were distributed into northern Rhodesia and some into southern Rhodesia. And as someone was counting the actual merchandise on the shelves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If it were linen in their rolls, there is a take. 500 yards of linen at 2 shillings and 6 pence. The moment you say that, I put the number 500 linen yards of that linen at that value. I put the figure. He was watching. He was standing behind. I was putting the figure, the amount. Quickly, I multiplied. I got it. So this man was standing behind. Then he went into a calculator That time it was, you pull the hanky. He saw it was correct. He thought the probable, it was perchance. He pretended to be walking. He stood again behind me. Where I was able to multiply completely there and there, I put the answer in the amount in figures. He went back to the thing. He did it. Then at the end, I only use a machine for those that were too big for me to, and I was able to finish to tell the amount the shop was holding. It was holding so many goods worthy so much. They at the end, they say, yes, how did you know? Because I was feeling as I was going. So I lost my, I was positioned up there, but I was black. But in Zambia, they were little lenient. I got there, I was given a desk with the drawers. Here, there was Edward Ndlovu, who was working, and Samuel Ndebele. They were working for Rana Brothers near the railways. You know, they brought a big box that brought goods from somewhere. That came with the goods from somewhere. It was turned like that is a box. It is turned. You put your legs into the box, and they put the brown paper, and you are sitting on another box. There's no chair. To be given a chair, like he's sitting. You are sitting on another box, and the clerks in Zimbabwe, the whole Zimbabwe, were sitting on, and there I thought I was got a chair, got a desk, I could lock my things in, and some friends who came from here and visited, going to, like Makubalo, I remember, says, how did you manage this? Is this your office? It was my office. So I stayed there. Then, after 2-3 years, the word came through in Zambia. Because they gave me accommodation at near the colored area. Even the coloreds, they didn't care. But then a certain member man, he was a member of the ANC of Zambia. I was drinking at that time. I visited the hotels and had some drinks. So this man comes to me and says, you are a good man. He was talking like that. You seem to be a good man. But only one thing, be very careful. Here we are so political minded. You must try and attend our meetings, ANC meetings. I say, why? But it was before it was about 1951, 52. There was nothing here. It was a trial of this and over, and a trial of that and over. There was no movement going in here. There was the ANC in South Africa. There was the ANC in Swaziland. There was so many organized meetings all over in Zambia. But here we did not have an organization. So I didn't know what to do. So I said to this man, he says, if you don't, where they put you, your accommodation, do you know they will end up, the Africans will end up saying, why did you get that type of treatment? The accommodation in a colored community section, when you are not a colored man, you are not, they will say you are a sellout.